Welcome back to the channel, Brad Takes Flight, where we take our dreams into the skies. If you're new to the channel, my name is Brad. I'm at a Part 141 school here in Smithfield, North Carolina called Blue Line Aviation. And this week, I'm starting up an exciting part of my training process, multi-engine training. So I've already got my commercial license in the single engine. Now it's time to progress towards the multi-engine. And if you're returning, please go ahead and click that subscribe button so that way you won't miss any more of this exciting adventure. So in this week's episode, we're going to go through the very beginning stage of today, which is going to be my classes on a Monday, to Thursday doing a check ride. It does not take any time at all to get your multi-engine, and I'm going from a commercial airplane single engine land to a commercial airplane multi-engine land rating, and there's no experience requirement whenever you're doing a class change like this. So all you have to do is go in, get your hours, your ground training, and get an instructor to sign off saying that you understand multi-engine flying. There's not a lot that's going to be added onto this. Really the big things that we're going to be looking at, especially here at Blue Line, we're flying DA-40s in our single engine, and we're now going over to DA-42s. And they have a FADEC system, and so you really just have one throttle that you're working with, and you don't have to worry about both the throttle, the manifold pressure, and the prop pitch. So today is Monday. It's about 7:30. Class is going to start at 8, and then after that, I've got a sim lesson that's going to be at 3 o'clock for my very first lesson. Big things that I think we're going to be going over is basically VMC and VYSE. So if you're not familiar with multi-engine work, VMC is just minimum control speed, while VYSE is going to be your best rate of climb over time on a single engine. And this is where most of our training is going to be focused on. So we're going to be looking at VMC, how to make sure that we stay above that very critical minimum control speed, because if you go below that, you're really going to lose rudder authority. And we'll talk about this a little bit more after my ground. I want to make sure that I get all of this correct for you, since I haven't done my training yet and I've only just been reading up on it. But you're basically going to lose your rudder authority because you're going so slow. Your rudder isn't able to produce enough lift to really turn the plane, and you can end up doing a snap roll into a spin that you basically is just going to be unrecoverable at that point. So that's the critical speed, as well as your VYSE, and that's your best rate of climb, like I said, with a single engine. And so that speed is going to be important because that's going to be basically your best operating speed, from my understanding. But again, I'll clean all this up once I finish up my ground lesson. Just wrapped up my ground, and it was a pretty good session, not too intensive. Went through the things that I thought we would go through. So we went through our VMC, what it means, how it's calculated using acronyms like PAST for figuring out which engine is critical, and then the SMAC-FUM, which helps you figure out what the actual VMC speed is, and then talked about some changes that will happen to those different things in the acronym and how that affects your VM speed and your controllability of the aircraft. We also dove into some system things. So there was 3 main ones, one being the prop, the other being fuel, and lastly the gear system, especially since it's retractable now, just talking about those 3 systems, since those are going to be the 3 main ones that are going to be different compared to the 40 that we've been flying. Main difference in the prop, which is probably the most important one, is like how the oil system works now for the prop governor. So we don't actually have levers to control the pitch. Even though we have a constant speed prop, we have a FADEC system, so it controls the oil coming in and out of the prop hub that then controls the pitch. So now as the oil is coming out of the prop, it's going to give us a higher pitch, which is then going to feather the prop whenever it stops. And so now we also have some centrifugal locking pins as well that helps lock the prop at that lower pitch. So that way on startup, you can get that bigger bite of the air that you're looking for at the startup, whereas whenever you're an engine out, you want it to feather. So that's a bit different than the way that it was working in the 40, since when your oil runs out there, you want it at that lower pitch, that way it's ready for startup. So those were really the big things. We also talked about what we're going to do in those engine outs and those VMC rolls and how to not get caught in those, and the procedures that we'll run through. Basically, raising the dead and all those kind of things. once you do actually have an engine out, and how to figure it out and those system processes. So I've got my DA42 checklist. I've got a couple of things that I'm going to tag in there to make sure that I'm ready to go with those. It should be pretty easy. Tomorrow I've got one flight. It's going to be at 6 a.m. And then on Wednesday I have a 6:15 flight into 2 grounds, followed by another flight. I think it's going to be from like 6 o'clock basically until 9:30 at night. It's going to be a jam-packed day on Wednesday, and then turning around and ferrying down to Florence to do my check ride. So it's going to be pretty jam-packed from, I would say, Wednesday morning until Thursday afternoon. Just a lot of flying, so really going to want to lock in, make sure that I'm really focused on what I've got to do to execute at a high level, especially when I'm doing my check ride that Thursday. Really excited to get started tomorrow. Can't wait to get into that. So I'm going to go through all my checklists, get everything tightened up on that, make sure I tag all the things that I need to tag, and start putting together kind of my presentation of what I want to make sure that I have ready for my grounds, reviewing the AFM, reviewing the Airplane Flying Handbook, Chapter 13, as well as there's another resource that I'm going to read through, which is like flying a lightweight twin-engine aircraft to get through tonight as well. So plenty to review, and I've got a sim this afternoon that I'll come back for. I'm going to grab some lunch, come back for my sim from 3 to 5, and then continue on with all those resources. Catch up with you guys after the sim. I just wrapped everything up for the day, and I am not jealous of the instructors around here right now, especially the leads who are going to have to juggle these schedules. Unfortunately, the sim was down, so really wasn't able to do a lot. Was able to go out and pre-flight one of our planes for the multi before it went up with somebody in it, so that was good to be able to like run through that exterior process and just do all of that. The sim was up enough to where I could get inside and actually flip some switches and kind of see some different reactions as far as like setting throttles and stuff like that, as we're just kind of pre-flighting the plane from the interior. Then our climb to cruise checklist. Went through a real quick like engine out flow, but still have a lot of work to do. Like I'm not even close to being confident with that yet. So I do have my sim that was supposed to be today rescheduled for tomorrow. I've got some really early flights now on the schedule. So tomorrow I've got a 6 a.m. flight as well as a sim. I think at about 12:30 is going to be the sim. So that'll get me caught kind of all back up. Wednesday is looking like a really early morning. It's going to be a 5:30 flight into a couple of grounds. That'll wrap up with another flight. And so that'll get the 1 sim and the 3 flights that I need to send me off on Thursday to go down and do my actual check ride. So still on pace as long as everything will cooperate with us. So we've only got 1 plane that's up right now. I think the other plane is actually in a 100-hour inspection. So hopefully that'll be back up here in the next couple of days, and that one will return to service because we've got about a dozen people or so that are kind of jockeying for some spot. But I would say about half of them are looking to get check rides this week. So they'll be done with their MEIs and they'll actually graduate out of the program. So that'll relieve some of the pressure that's on the schedule right now. Super excited to be a part of this program. If you're excited to be a part of this community, go ahead and hit that like button, and I'll check you guys out tomorrow. It is Tuesday at Blue Line, and I couldn't get in a pre-video because I got in at 6 a.m. and it was like dark this morning. So I am going to get you all caught up on my very first multi-engine flight, and it was amazing. So I got in at 6 a.m. this morning, had to do my new toll card, which is the exact same toll card. We just have to add in a few more things, have to adjust some different numbers that are a little bit different than what they are on the 40. Luckily, a lot of my calculations are the same and look very familiar. Like the arms are still the same length from the datum plane on the 42 to the 40, as far as from that datum plane to the station of the front seats and the rear seats and some of the baggage compartments and things like that. We did have to add in the nose now. The fuel tanks are at the same spot as far as just the alignment and the arms again. So it was nice to have some familiar numbers as you're trying to like now do some additional things that like recalculate new numbers for takeoff and takeoff over 50-foot obstacles, that kind of stuff. We also have accelerated stops that we need to start taking account for as well. So once I get everything recalculated, did my pre-flight, and then we were able to get up and take off. The very first thing we did was an instrument approach with one engine, and that was really interesting for that first approach to be like that, on top of the fact that we had winds aloft anywhere from 30 to 40 knots in the downwind. Luckily it was pretty much right down the pipe. I think it's 020, 030, kind of depending on when you were looking at the ASOS or getting in the weather from the METAR. So it was good that it was right down the pipe, but it was still pretty strong up there. And at surface level, it was only about 6 to 10, so not too terrible, but I mean, getting up, and the speed is already increased in the Multi, obviously, but being able to just control it single engine with that amount of wind was definitely a challenge for the first one, but all of my landings today and all of the pattern stuff went really well, so I'm happy with the outcome of that. We're able to do some power on, power off, accelerated stalls. We did some steep turns, we did an emergency descent, and we also did a VMC demo as well as a engine out restart. Those were all really cool. Hopefully you were able to see a decent picture of that engine out. Kind of crazy just to see the propeller just sitting there, right? And just running on that single engine. That was a new experience as well. I feel like I'm doing a pretty good job with just understanding PAST and SACFM, which are some acronyms that you've got to get used to whenever you are looking at just the aerodynamics and understanding which one's the critical engine, and things that are going to affect your VMC speeds as well as your controllability. Got those acronyms down, feel pretty solid about understanding those, because this is just an add-on. Don't really have to know that instructor level knowledge yet, but it's going to be there pretty quickly since I'm going to do my check ride on Thursday, which is only 2 days away. So I've got one sim that's coming up here at 12:30, and then I've got my check ride on Thursday, and that's only anchored by 2 more flights. So the one thing that I know I really need to work on and kind of drill in right now is actually getting my engine out flow. So really nailing that down, making sure that I'm feeling super comfortable with what I do with an engine out and how to respond quickly to that is going to be the biggest key to my success come Thursday. Next up is the sim. I'm going to go and knock that out. Hopefully that'll help me with some of my engine outflow, and I'll catch you guys here in a bit. So unfortunately, the sim is still not working, so ended up turning it into a ground lesson today, which was good. Went through our same acronyms, just kind of going through all of the critical engines, like what it means to identify the critical engine, and then things that we need to consider whenever we're looking at our VMC speed and things that are going to impact that. Went through some more of our systems, and then also, because it was an MEI ground, went through endorsements as well, which was really good. So got to hear some students actually get up there and teach that are trying to go for their MEI, and then also got to hear the endorsement side, which isn't many. I mean, we have our complex endorsements, and then just thinking about non-powered to coming over as a multi, or going just from a single engine over to a multi, and what those endorsements look like, and kind of time considerations and things like that. I have 2 flights scheduled for tomorrow, as well as 2 grounds, and that will lead me right up into my check ride on Thursday. Still watching the weather down there, so we're actually not going to be doing the check ride here at Johnston. We'll be doing the check ride in Florence, so have to keep an eye on the weather. Right now it doesn't look very good down there. It looks like it may be storming on Thursday, so we'll see if that's going to go or not. Tomorrow's flight is at 5:30 a.m. Man, that's going to be early and probably pretty dark, so I will catch you guys when I give you a recap of that flight tomorrow. It is Wednesday and I just wrapped up my day. I had 2 flights and they started extremely early. I got up here at like 5 a.m. so it was pretty early in the morning when I got started. Was able to get in both flights and a ground lesson, and that was really helpful. I feel much better, especially about my VMC demo. So you have to demonstrate this minimum control speed that you are going to end up with if you lose an engine. So getting to that point, kind of getting through that demonstration has really been one of the most, I would say, frustrating pieces of kind of doing multi so quickly. Is this is something totally new. So you've done all different types of stalls and you've done steep turns and this other stuff, right? It's just really getting to the VMC demo as well as some single engine operation that really is the most difficult work, and just getting those flows down. So I am fully endorsed, ready to go to my check ride tomorrow. Excited to get that up. It is going to be a 6 a.m. start here. Not sure what that means as far as my ability to do maybe a pre-check with you guys, but if it's light enough out, I'll see if I can't get a little bit of footage. If not, I'll definitely showcase everything to you as soon as I get down to Florence and show you all the things around that check ride as soon as I can. Catch up with you guys in the AM. So it is Thursday at Blue Line, but I had to go all the way to Florence in order to get my multi Multi-Engine add-on to my commercial license. Super excited about that. Also got my instrument as well, and so you got to do an instrument approach to go ahead and secure that. So it was extremely different conditions than what I'm used to, right? So we had a pretty good crosswind, which we usually don't have a crosswind here at Johnson. We just don't get a lot of practice at it, it seems like. And on top of that, it was at a towered airport that was pretty busy for a Thursday morning. Had a good amount of traffic. So started things off with the ground. So we went through our critical engines, VMC, what VMC is, did some system stuff about the landing gear, our fuel system, and not just the retraction of the gears, but also like the gear mute horn and different little scenarios like that, and how cross-feeding fuel works and all that kind of stuff. And I feel like the ground portion went pretty solid. Got up in the air, was able to do all of my maneuvers. So we went up, did our steep turns, did some power off, power on, slow flight, and then we ended up doing, I think, my emergency descent. Not too far after that, an instrument approach and a couple of landings after that with single engine, and did some different VMC demos, as well as a engine restart in air. So all those things wrapped up into a big ball of satisfactory, and really excited to get that piece done. And now it's time to start focusing on MEI. This is going to be the last rating that I am up for, and I'm going to begin that tomorrow. Today, at the end of all of our flights, so there was 3 of us that were there doing our check ride down in Florence, and 2 of us flew down, 1 of us drove just because of weight and balance. And then on the flight back, I actually flew and got some PIC time, which was great for the first time in that multi-engine. So that was nice to finally get some PIC, as well as cross country. I don't think I'll get any more cross country, just the way our program works out here at Blue Line. But it was good to get all that stuff done, and now I've got a flight tomorrow night right now at 8:30. So we'll see what happens this weekend. Looks like we may have some stuff moving in, maybe not. Kind of waiting to see how the schedule and the weather plays out as far as how much flying I'll get to do. Right now, my check ride for MEI is scheduled for next week. So we'll see how that goes, and I'll let you know then. So I'm gonna go ahead and do a wrap up now for this one, since we've completed a check ride. So this week I got in 5.3 hours before I did my flight, which turned into I think it was a 1.3, so that gives me 6.6 now of multi time. I had another like 0.7 of hood time, as well as a few instrument approaches. So really overall, happy with another first time pass, especially on this multi-engine add-on. So really excited to get this one in. And so now I have my Camel, and really excited to continue to push forward in the program as I got my MEI next week. Hope you guys are enjoying this trip with me. If you are, go ahead and hit that like button. And then if you haven't already, you can click the subscribe button right here, or you can watch the next video in the series and see if I get my MEI right here. And then you can always follow along in the entire series if you're new, right here. Leave me a comment down below. Let me know how your training is going. I'd love to hear more about it. And keep the grass off your wingtips.